So you want to buy a Ducati Panigle V4? You might want to watch this video. There's a couple things you probably don't know, or you might want to know, that could change your mind or make your mind. What's up, guys? So before you buy a Panigle V4, there's a couple things you should know, or just the Ducati in general. I didn't know a whole lot about the brand other than I just really wanted one. They're a sexy bike. I've always wanted one since I was a kid. So with that being said, obviously a Panigle V4 is even more expensive than $20,000. I have a base model, and the models actually just keep going up all the way to the R, which you're talking $40,000. You know, base model still $21,500 to $22,000, and if you even look for them used at this point, there's just not a whole lot of them on the used market at a fair price. I think on eBay I've seen a couple of the 18S models going for right around $18,000, and to be honest, I mean, that was a $27,000 bike roughly new, so it does depreciate, but there's just not really, the market is not really flooded with them quite yet. Getting back onto the subject, so there's a couple things that you don't really know about Ducatis until you've actually rode a Ducati. And so now that I've owned and rode two, here's some of the things that you might want to think about. So the first thing is that these bikes heat soak really bad. And if you don't know what heat soaking is where the motor produces so much heat that it essentially cooks your butt and your biscuits, your legs, everything. It just radiates a lot of heat. So if you're in stop and go traffic, it will actually start getting very uncomfortable. You don't really notice any of the heat soaking as long as you're driving down the road or doing a highway speed or even at 30 miles an hour. You really only notice it when you actually are in just stop and go or standing still. But on a hot summer day, you're going to wish you did not own that bike. It will just burn you, it'll feel like. Another thing that I would say that people don't realize is that on the new V4s, and even I think on my 1199, you have to take the bike to the dealership to turn off the change oil light. So most bikes will come with, like, a newer bike comes with oil change reminders or lights, and you could usually typically turn them off yourself. But on the Ducati, you can't. You could change the oil yourself if you'd like, but you still have to take the bike back to the dealership to have them reset the light, because I think on the Panigle V4, the light is set for 7,500 miles or on an annual service light. So even if you only put 500 miles, Ducati with the performance motor wants to make sure that you're getting the oil change. And you have to realize that an oil change is typically going to cost you anywhere from $150 to $200, depending on where you live and what other services might actually need to be done. With that being said, you have to remember, I live 5 hours away from the dealership. So it's a 10-hour round trip day for me to go down and get this done. Another thing that people don't realize is to modify these bikes cost a whole lot of money. It is a super expensive bike, and there's a thing called a Ducati tax that most people don't realize. And this Ducati tax is essentially going to jack up the prices on everything by probably 3 to 4 times. So on most bikes, you could probably pick up an Akrapovic exhaust, a full system, for around $1,500. Now on the Ducati, it's a $5,000 upgrade. And yes, you could find some for cheaper, and you can even find them used, but beware, Ducati has to flash the bike after you get the exhaust installed. And in order for them to flash it, Akrapovic actually sends them the upkey map. So if that was a used exhaust, then you're going to be spending another $400 to $500, from what I've heard, to buy a new upkey map for the dealership to do it. Now, there are other options out there, and I put the SC Project exhaust and only did a slip-on, and that was still a $2,300 exhaust. But tuning these bikes is kind of a harder thing as well. So there's a couple options out there that you can use. There's the Terminoni up map. There's the Akrapovic up map, and then there's a couple other things out there too. I ended up going with a Brentune flash. Now, this by no means was a full-on tune, but it's a flash kit to essentially be able to help just make sure I didn't have a check engine. But even beyond that, you're looking at $250 for a Ducati comfort seat. I mean, everything for the bike, nothing's like a $5 part. The windscreen from Ducati itself is $200. But you just have to remember that most of these things, they just are expensive. Those are some of the things that you're probably not going to really like about the bike. You know, and it's one of those things, I'm making this video strictly just to try to help educate people so that they know what they're getting more into. But beyond that, I don't want people to also think that that's all there is to this video. So there's also really good things about the Ducati. First off, the look. It is probably one of the best looking bikes on the market. You don't really have to buy an exhaust because the bike's already pretty loud. You don't really need to do any performance modifications because the bike already is one of the most powerful bikes on the market. It screams. It is so fast. If you ride down the road and you're on a Ducati Panigle V4, every single person's going to notice you because it's such an exotic bike and you don't see it very often. It has a unique sound. Give it a little throttle and then it just has this pure mechanical opera of noise that just flows. And you don't hear that type on any other bike. So I hope this video was able to help you make a decision as to whether some of these things would stop you from buying the bike, or if some of these things you already knew about and maybe you still just want to buy the bike. If you have any questions, go ahead, write them down in the comment section. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and it helped you, and subscribe to the channel if you'd like.